Fun එක next level කරන dialogue fan blaster.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Monday, the 2nd of December 2024. Erupting tensions. All Ceylon School Development Officers Association launches protests demanding the confirmation of teaching appointments. 3 police officers wounded as tensions escalate. Falsely accused. One of the suspects arrested over posting Mahavira celebrations on social media released on bail. Feeding the nation. President proposes a QR code system to streamline fertilizer subsidy distribution. Emphasizes the need to enhance storage facilities to maintain a steady supply of rice. Turning the tides. Public-private partnerships in Sri Lanka have not been successful during the past 3 decades, says the Deputy Minister of Industry. Calls for more investments in the north.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබා දෙත හැක.
කන්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe වැස්සත් මට්ටුවෙන් ගෙදරත් තිස්නේ.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story this evening, the Old Ceylon School Development Officers Association launched a protest today in front of the Ministry of Education, demanding the government confirm their appointments as teachers. Tensions escalated when protesters blocked the road in front of the ministry, leading to clashes with police. During the confrontation, 3 police officers sustained stab wounds and were hospitalized. The protest aimed to urge the government to formally integrate the school development officers who have been serving in schools for the past 5 years into the teaching service. Protesters who gathered in front of the Ministry of Education demanded a meeting with the Minister of Education, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
They have planned another examination for the officers who have been teaching for the past 5 years. Why do they need to test us again? We saved the school system from collapsing during the COVID and when there was a shortage of 40,000 teachers. If they attempt to give these appointments to anyone else, we will begin a Satyagraha campaign in front of the Ministry of Education.
As the protesters blocked the road, the situation intensified when the police intervened to clear the obstruction. Tensions rose further as protesters attempted to block police vehicles that were transporting protesters who had been arrested. During the clash, 3 police officers sustained stab wounds and were admitted to hospital. According to the police, one of the 3 wounded officers has undergone surgery. However, by the afternoon, 10 representatives of the protesting school development officers were given the opportunity to discuss the issue with the officials of the Education Ministry.
නියෝජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරයා ඇවිල්ලා අපිට සාකච්ඡාවක් ලබා දුන්නා. පැහැදිලිව අපිට කිව්වා ඔබට අසාධාරණයක් වෙච්ච බව පිළිගන්නවා කියලා.
The Deputy Minister gave us a meeting and acknowledged that we have been wronged. He also recognized that a fair solution must be provided. However, he did not specify how this will be done, so we are not ready to agree to anything at this time. The police claim that several officers have been injured. However, I would like to remind them that there are no thugs among us. Any incident might have been orchestrated through a conspiracy. The CCTV footages can always be reviewed for clarity.
Meanwhile, the General Secretary of the Ceylon Teachers Union, Joseph Stalin, commented on the school development officers' protest.
According to these development officers, the majority of them have been engaged in teaching. That is why they are requesting appointments. The government is stating that they must sit for competitive exams to be appointed as teachers, which is the core issue. These officers must be appointed without breaching the service constitution. We are also exploring how this can be done.
The 4 arrested individuals were produced before the Kaduwela Magistrates Court later in the day. They were ordered to be placed under remand custody until the 10th of December and are scheduled to appear in an identification parade on the same day.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුනේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
The committee report on the allowances and entitlements of members of parliament was submitted to President Anura Disanayake today by the committee's chair, former Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri. In a separate meeting with small and medium-scale rice mill owners, the President emphasised the importance of maintaining a continuous and affordable rice supply in the coming months. He also proposed the introduction of a QR code system to streamline the distribution of fertiliser subsidies. The report of the committee, chaired by former Supreme Court Justice K.T. Chitrasiri, tasked with reviewing the allowances and entitlements of members of parliament, ministers and former presidents, was submitted to President Anura Disanayake at the Presidential Secretariat today. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya and Secretary to the President Dr. Nandika Sanath Kumar Nayaka were also present during the occasion. President Disanayake, commenting on the matter on X, stated that the report marks a crucial step towards enhancing transparency and accountability in governance. Meanwhile, another meeting was held today at the Presidential Secretariat between President Disanayake and small and medium-scale rice mill owners. The discussion focused on the importance of ensuring a continuous and affordable supply of rice to consumers in the coming months. It also addressed the need to enhance storage facilities across the country to prevent shortages and maintain a steady supply of rice. Concerns were raised regarding the declining availability of Nadu rice for consumption due to its increased use in value-added products. During the meeting, President Disanayake also highlighted the potential benefits of introducing a QR code system to streamline the distribution of fertiliser subsidies and promote domestic agricultural production.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Diabetol සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Prime Group ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන land leasing ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ.
කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
Supreme Court Justice Murdu Fernando took oath as Sri Lanka's new Chief Justice this morning before President Anura Disanayake. Justice Fernando is the second woman to hold the position of Chief Justice in Sri Lanka's history after Shirani Bandaranayake in 2011. She assumes office as the 48th Chief Justice of Sri Lanka, succeeding Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya, who recently retired. Her appointment received approval from the Constitutional Council. She began her career at the Attorney General's Department in 1985. With over 3 decades of service as a state counsel, she was appointed to the Supreme Court in March 2018. She was the most senior Supreme Court justice prior to her appointment as the Chief Justice. The deadline for candidates who contested the recent parliamentary election to submit the income and expenditure reports of their election campaigns is set to expire on the 6th of this month. Executive Director of the People's Action for Free and Fair Elections, Rohana Hettiarachchi, warned that failure to submit the reports before the stipulated time will result in the suspension of such candidates' right of franchise as well as the right to contest future elections for a period of 3 years. As per the Regulation of Election Expenditure Act No. 3 of 2023, candidates contesting an election must submit their campaign income and expenditure reports within 21 days of the day in which the election results were declared. Accordingly, the deadline for candidates who contested the 2024 parliamentary election to declare their campaign finances expires on the 6th of this month.
As per the legislation regarding the regulation of election expenditure, all candidates must submit their income and expenditure reports before the 6th of December. Candidates are required to submit 4 reports, which are the party's income and expenditure reports and the candidate's personal income and expenditure reports. The Election Commission is set to publish these reports within 10 days of the expiration of the deadline. If a candidate or a political party fails to submit these reports following legal proceedings that will be initiated against them, they will lose their right of franchise as well as for the right to contest election for a period of 3 years. Three presidential candidates failed to submit their reports before the deadline. Additionally, 10 political parties, including several mainstream parties, have not submitted their reports either. We believe that legal action will be taken against them in the coming days. This process can be delayed since it takes some time for the police to initiate legal proceedings on the advice of the Attorney General's Department.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa has urged Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Akio Isamata, to resume halted Japanese development projects in Sri Lanka, stating that he will provide all necessary support for their implementation. The opposition leader made this request during a meeting between the Japanese ambassador and himself held in Colombo yesterday. During the meeting, Premadasa also requested that the ambassador maintain the strong and long-standing diplomatic ties between Japan and Sri Lanka. And with that, let's take a look at more opinions expressed in the political arena.
The weak opposition, which cannot even appoint its nationalist MPs, is trying to exaggerate a small issue and make it a public spectacle. At the moment, we are revoking the privileges of all MPs. We are proceeding with the remaining funds from the previous budget. We are unable to do anything major with that. But an NPP budget is coming and we expect to provide some of the relief the public is expecting.
හතරම යවනවා. ඒක අපිට ඕන දවසට යවනවා. නම් නම් ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. 262ක් ඉන්නවා ඉල්ලපු කට්ටිය. ඒකෙන් තේරලා තියෙන්නේ 40යි. එතනත් 222ක් ඉන්නවා.
අපේ මීඩියා සෝෂල් මීඩියා කියාගෙන සෝෂල් මීඩියා වල
Before coming to power, they claimed that social media was their platform. Now that they have taken control of the government, they are attempting to suppress social activists. These activists have been arrested under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. They must ask themselves what right they have to make this arrest under an act they were previously opposed to. This government is sending the message that people should not criticize the government.
පෝස්ට් එකක්වත් දාන්න එපා. එහෙම කරොත් අපි උඹලව ඉවර කරනවා කියන ඒ පණිවිඩය තමයි මේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
The announcement regarding the upcoming local government elections is expected to be issued after the conclusion of the 2024 GCE Advanced Level Examination. The Election Commission stated that if the announcement is made beforehand, candidates may begin their campaigns during the exam period, which may disrupt the examination. Due to adverse weather conditions, the examination was postponed until the 4th of this month and is set to conclude on the 31st. Meanwhile, a meeting of party leaders regarding the local government elections is scheduled for tomorrow. During the meeting, which will be chaired by Leader of the House Bimal Ratnayaka, a final decision is expected to be made regarding recalling nominations for the elections. Political parties have decided to cancel the nominations submitted earlier for the elections due to nominated candidates switching parties, some leaving the country and others retiring from politics. One of the suspects placed under remand custody yesterday on charges of exciting disaffection and publishing videos publicising the activities of the LTTE, was released on bail today. The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court granted bail to the suspect on the grounds that his actions did not constitute promotion of terrorism. 4 individuals were arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department yesterday on charges ranging from exciting or attempting to excite disaffection and spreading false and misleading videos publicising the activities of a proscribed organisation. One of the suspects, who was placed under remand custody, was released on bail today after being produced before the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court.
When former MP M.K. Sivajalingam organised a celebration to mark the birthday of the late LTT leader Velupille Prabhakaran, the police covered the Prabhakaran's image and allowed the celebration to proceed. In another instance, a parliamentarian hailed that late LTT leader Prabhakaran as a god. However, my client only posted that terrorists like Velupille Prabhakaran should never be born on this soil again. The court inquired as to who was truly at fault, those who held the Mahavir celebration or the person who posted footage of the LTT Mahavir commemoration on social media platforms. Accordingly, the court granted bail to my client on the grounds that the charges have no relation to Prevention of Terrorism Act. None of the previous regimes attempted to censor social media platforms to this extent. The incumbent government should be wary, as their action might come back to haunt them.
Meanwhile, another suspect apprehended in Jaffna yesterday in connection with the same legal matter was placed under remand custody until the 4th of December on the orders of the Jaffna Magistrates Court. Political activists Kalum Jayasumana and Janit Chaturanga are also currently being held under remand custody in connection with the incident. Sarvajana Balaya leader parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira visited the Velikada prison today to inquire into the well-being of political activist Kalum Jayasumana.
Regardless of the government in power, we always raised our voices against the violation of the freedom of expression. It is our responsibility to stand against the incumbent government's witch hunt. We are not pleased with the government's attempts to censor social media. The government should not intervene in such matters unnecessarily. This severely violates the general public's freedom of expression. This concept of Mahavir commemoration gives rise to disputes among the various ethnic groups in the country, threatening our unified national identity. We request that the incumbent government refrain from using such sensitive topics for selfish political gain.
With the lessening of the recent inclement weather, the Central Environmental Authority noted that Sri Lanka's air quality index is reaching moderate levels. Meanwhile, the Department of Railways announced the resumption of train operations on the upcountry line starting this morning. In a backdrop where heavy downpours accompanied by strong gusty winds pounded several parts of the island in the past few days, the Department of Meteorology today forecast a reduction in the continuous rainfall in the upcoming days. Accordingly, hot and clear weather conditions were observed today. However, the Meteorological Department anticipates light rainfall in some areas in the northern and eastern provinces. Railway operations between the Haliala and Uduvara stations on the upcountry line resumed this morning after being disrupted for several days. Train services were halted due to the mounds of earth and rock falling onto the tracks near the 175/5 mile post. Meanwhile, farmlands were seen affected by the incessant rains which prompted heavy flooding. In the meantime, Eastern Province Governor Professor Jayantalal Ratnasekara engaged in an inspection tour of the Valachene fishery harbour in the Batticaloa district today, which was damaged by the heavy flooding in the area. The Road Development Authority meanwhile says that a program to assess the damage caused to infrastructure as a result of the incessant rains will be conducted from today onwards. Subsequently, measures will be taken to reconstruct the damaged infrastructure. Meanwhile, against a backdrop where the air quality in major cities of the country drastically depleted in the aftermath of the recent inclement weather, the Central Environmental Authority today revealed that Sri Lanka's air quality index is gradually reaching moderate levels.
Due to winds flowing from India towards Sri Lanka, a considerable amount of air pollutants from India and other regions close by have blown over to Sri Lanka. This resulted in a drop in air quality in some parts of the country during the past few days. Although a high air quality index value has been recorded from some areas, such as Anuradhapura, moderate values were reported from other major cities across the country. We expect this situation to change during the coming days.
Meanwhile, Manusat Derana, in partnership with Dialogue and Malibin, continued its efforts for the fourth consecutive day to provide relief to those Sri Lankans reeling from the effects of the recent adverse weather. Manusat Derana disaster relief programs were conducted today in Ampara and Batticaloa. Accordingly, Manusat Derana went to the Vela Valley Divisional Secretariat and provided dry rations to the displaced people of Poraithiv Batticaloa with the assistance of Sri Lanka Army personnel, including Commander of the 243rd Infantry Brigade, Colonel Pradeep Kalupahana. Manusat Derana also provided dry rations to displaced people in Aligambe, Akkarepattu in Ampara. Manusat Derana seeks to further build on its past relief efforts and provide relief to those affected by the inclement weather across the country in partnership with Dialogue and Malibin. Welcome back. The Deputy Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development, Chaturanga Besinghe, is of the view that Sri Lanka has neglected the needs of the people of the North. He highlighted that more investments must be directed towards the northern province. Speaking at an event in Colombo, the Deputy Minister further highlighted that Sri Lanka's standards of living have yet to reach their full potential and have been hindered for decades due to an unsupportive environment for entrepreneurs in the country. UK Sri Lanka Trade Mission, a special program organised by the International Trade Centre and the Sri Lanka Export Development Board aimed at providing new opportunities for Sri Lankan female entrepreneurs to enter the British export market, was held in Colombo today. The program is part of the United Kingdom's government-funded She Trades Commonwealth Plus initiative, which operates through the UK Sri Lanka Trade Partnership. Through the program, over 50 Sri Lankan female entrepreneurs will have the chance to connect with the British companies, helping them access the export market.
The reality, if we speak today, such standards of living is deprived from our nation. Our people are still struggling to achieve their basic needs, and what prevents it is the lack of entrepreneurship. The ecosystem is broken in Sri Lanka. So how much we try to infuse various projects and initiatives, the result speaks for itself. We are still at 12 billion exports of goods and another 3.5 billion of service exports. The public-private partnerships never worked for the last 30 years. There are institutions which are established to support the private entrepreneurship and business, but none of them work together. The decision to go to North is very important because we've been continuously neglecting the feelings of those people. Please be broad when you visit. There are ample of opportunities in North.
Pleased today to be able to open this forum, which is about deepening those connections between the UK and Sri Lanka. And this is a global program, the She Trades program. It's been running for some years, but this is the first time it's come to Sri Lanka, who are going to have the chance to connect with all of those entrepreneurs and also, as we heard, to visit not only Colombo, but Kurunegala and Jaffna. And it's focusing in Sri Lanka on apparel, but also certain sections of the agri-food business, spices and coconut exports and so on.
The trade mission is going to be outside of Colombo as well, and traveling to the north, where I believe there's quite a bit of opportunities and untapped potential. Lanka has today a female labor participation that is below 30%. It's the lowest it has been in over 10 years. So there is no way that we're going to be able to achieve the kind of growth, the kind of goals in exports without placing women and women entrepreneurs at the heart of this effort. The rules have to be changed to allow lower collateral, to enhance credit access, but also to drive financial literacy. This mission will focus on connecting UK buyers with Sri Lankan women-led businesses, fostering direct business relationships, and providing exposure to the production processes in Sri Lanka.
Export-led women entrepreneurs not only enhance gender equality, but also accelerate sustainable development. Studies show that investing in women's economic participation will result in strong economic outcomes for families, communities, and nations. By prioritizing women in export development, we ensure more inclusive and diversified export base for Sri Lanka.
The Colombo bourse closed in positive territory today, aided by price gains in counters such as Haley's, Aitken Spence and Axis Engineering. The all share price index closed 0.30% higher at 12,228.92 points, while the S&P SL20 increased 0.12% to end at 3,910 points. Market turnover crossed 2.3 billion rupees. The food, beverage and tobacco sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Foreign investors closed as net sellers, offloading shares worth 431.8 million rupees. Research analyst of Capital Alliance Imran Dean joins us now with a few thoughts to round off our Markets in View segment for the week.
The domestic equity market climbed throughout the preceding week. The S&P SL20 increased 0.9% to 3,905 from 3,871, while the ASPI increased 1% from 13,054 to 13,189. Despite the indices' improvements, market turnover fell by 32% to 15.8 billion rupees, mostly due to contributions from the consumer services sector. Furthermore, the government raised 125 billion rupees last week through treasury bill auctions, along with 205 billion rupees through treasury bond auctions. Internationally, all three major US market indices concluded the week with weekly gains, with Dow Jones, S&P 500 and Nasdaq climbing 1.4%, 1.1% and 1.1% respectively, driven by tech stocks and retail with the start of the holiday shopping season.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.